Okay, so welcome everyone. Gunilla Lundgren, Fred Taikon, and Claudia Șerbenuță with us from Romania, from Bukarest. And my name is Arina Stoinescu, and I will be the moderator of this discussion about Children's Roma Library, how everything did started and what have been done with the project, what activities, and which are the plans for the future. But first I would like to introduce you, present you for the audience, and I start with you, Gunilla Lundgren, the initiator and founder of the Children's Roma Library, but also a writer with and about Roma culture since 1970s, and also the founder and initiator of Nobel in Rinkeby. And then I move on to Fred Taikon, a founder of the Children's Roma Library, together with Gunilla, a Roma activist and a children's writer, children's books writer. And Claudia Șerbenuță, a library specialist and coordinator of several networks, among them Communities of the Future Association, but also a member of the Reading Together Romania network. So, and I am also Arina Stoinescu and the co-founder of the Children's Roma Library. And I'm so happy that we can that we have been gathered together, that we are together today talking about this project that started in 2016 in Bukarest, Romania. But I would like to ask you, Gunilla, first, how and why did it this project came up? What was the background of it?
Yes, in the 1972, I wrote my first book together with some 3 teenager Roma children they were newly arrived from Spain. And how I could write this book was that I had been in London and I had met Donald Kendrick, and he worked with Roma. He was a fantastic person. He was a translator. He could speak 60 languages. He was an activist, and he did a lot of things together with Roma and other poor people who were not integrated, one can say. But he was a practical man. So we traveled around, and I have a photo here in my book here, where we went to schools, caravan schools, where Donald and Thomas Acton and other activists who then later got famous. And I learned a lot how to write books together with people who were not used to write books. And this was the first book ever written there with the Roma caravan side children, Mo Romano Lil. And it is in the language that they spoke and in English. So when I came back to Sweden, I decided I could also write a book together with my Roma friends. So we did this book. And then Donald and I got very good friends. We traveled a lot. We made a lot of things together. We wrote books together. And when Donald died in 2015, I wanted to honor him. And how could I honor such a fantastic person? So I discussed with you too. And then we decided we should open a Roma children library in Romania. And with the help together, we collected the money and we collected the books, and we did it to honor Donald Kendrick.
Mm. Yeah. And do you remember, how about you, Fred?
Yeah, I do remember everything of what you were speaking about, Gunilla. And I'm very proud to be one of those who was starting this Roma library in Bukarest, in Giulesti. So it was very nice to be one of the members who started. And I do remember what we did. I had a suitcase full of books. I think I had at least 50 titles of Roma books And I also remember that you took books with you to, and we were sitting there the day before opening and making catalogizing to make the ISB numbers and so on, so it could be possible to borrow the books and so on. And that was very nice. And I do remember the opening, how nice it was. And also I remember your good work as you did. I mean, the furnitures.
Yeah,
It
right.
wasn't so
It was
easy.
IKEA Romania sponsoring us.
Yes, but also the Swedish embassy was also giving us support. And I don't forget when we got the furnitures, children's library furnitures from IKEA, and we got it free. Very good work. So it was very nice. I do remember it, and it was a very good time anyway.
Yeah, and how about you, Claudia? Because you've been with us, and we had one of the European Union commissioners there, Soraya Post, and the Swedish ambassador. But you were with us as well, Claudia. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was at the time the interim manager of the National Library of Romania, and Arina and came and we talked about many projects, possible projects, great ideas to promote early literacy and Romanian literature in Romania. And then this idea of the Roma Children Library came, and I received an official invitation, and I said, of course I will go, because it's such a great idea. We didn't have anything in any of the public libraries or the National Library that was dedicated to the Roma culture at the time. And it was a real honor and a very well-regarded event. The space was special. The community was really welcoming the project at the time.
Yes,
and thank you for starting this.
Yes, and I need to say that when Gunilla mailed several people asking about where to have this a library, then I thought also that there are so many migrants from Romania coming to Sweden. So it was a lot of people coming, trying to find work to support the children. So then the Swedish society was kind of aware of the Roma community in Romania and the situation there. And I know that you have been there discussing the Roma rights before the European Union entrance for Romania. So it felt as a very good idea to have it in Bukarest. And then I was so surprised and very happy to discover the cultural museum of the Museum of Roma Culture in Giulesti, in that part of Bucharest. So it was there it started, in Giulesti. And then we had actually more than a couple of years. We had 3 years of activities, and you've been there last time, 2019. Do you remember?
And also I want to tell that when we had been there, we started to write letters to the children, and they answered us. So we had a correspondence that we found very, very strong and fine, because, you know, the Roma children in Sweden, they don't beg, their parents don't beg, and so they feel embarrassed by seeing this Romanian Roma begging. So we started to say, but how can we help them? And then we decided that when we make our books, the money shall go to give books to children in Romania, so they will not become beggars. And that strengthened the Roma children in Sweden, because they felt ashamed. And then they felt like, now, yeah, we are strong helpers, and they shall have it as good as we. And then this communication with us, we put up the photos and the drawings we got in our library. So it really felt like we got friends. We were friends, and we were equal friends, and it made also our children to feel strong and good.
Yeah, and that's it. This is actually the library, the Rinkeby Library, where the Nobel Prize literature laureate is going to come on the 12th of December. So that's the place, that's the library, that is the friend of the Children's Roma Library in Bukarest.
Yes, and it will be a Romani girl that will say welcome to this year's Nobel Prize winner. Should we say it in Romanes?
Yeah.
And I can also add that this library, the Children's Library in Bukarest, was also became quite famous because we had our newspaper Romänien. So all the articles went out to all the Roma in Sweden, so they could see that we have been open a Roma library. And I don't really know, but I think they got an idea because now in Sweden they are going to open a Roma library in Malmö, in south part of Sweden. So I hope we was the first one.
Yes, and I think actually, Fred, that you are right, because this is a piece of news for you, Claudia, that the Swedish state is financing a Roma library that will be placed in the south of Sweden, in Malmö, a very multicultural city. And the Children's Roma Library, I think that it's the first one in the world, because I was contacted by an American librarian that has a podcast about libraries, and he was curious about that. And now at the library that Mihaela is working with, she got a Zoom visit from Bagir Kivek, who is who is the person in charge for the Roma library in Malmö, and he wants to come and visit Romania and the Romanian network of libraries. So next year. So and I hope that you are going to join and make a visit. So I think that you are probably right, that things are kind of getting together.
Because they knew about it through the paper, our paper Romänien. So yes, I think it depends now when the time is that we can go back to Romania. And but I can also say that the last trip we made, I don't know if you go too fast, but the last trip we made, you had a workshop together with libraries.
Yeah.
And how is it? Did they start to be a Roma ambassador library or what?
Yes, and I think that that's the question that Claudia is going to tell us more about. And you have, I know that you have a presentation, so you can just tell us everything about because that was my. The most important part of that trip, except the fact that the reopening at the National Library, I will get back to that, but it was the network with 5 Romanian libraries that it's working with that. So please, Claudia.
Yeah, I mean, we can start with this, but really the reopening of the library after the pandemic is what got us together and made us think about really the reach of this type of project to larger audiences. And together with Arina, we discussed, if it's feasible to bring more librarians from Romania and more libraries from Romania in to start thinking about such a library, such a collection, and package of services, actually, because they come not just as books, but as books and stories and interaction that are maybe a little bit new to our culture here in Romania. This is the great network. This is the great librarians that joined. It was an open call. We had to do a selection. We didn't have the budget for this pilot to go to more libraries. But from the picture, as you look, we have Tulcea Library represented there. Tulcea is at the Black Sea region, close to the sea. Then we have Shirna Rural Library, which is in very close to Romania. If you come to Bukarest, if you come to Bukarest, you just jump in a car and in 45 minutes you are there. Then we have 2 librarians from Dâmbovița County, which is again bordering Bucharest as a region, so close to this area, but in different type of communities, both in rural communities and both with Roma families living there. And then the last one on this list, but the one that already was mentioned here, is the Mihaela from the public library in Bârlad city, which is in Vaslui, one of the poorest county regions in Romania. And it's a very active library. All of these librarians come from libraries that are active. And we told them from the beginning what we want to do, and that this is a pilot. We are starting this for them. And then we had the opening at the National Library together. We had a workshop. We discussed with them, and then they were quite impressed by all the work that you've been doing, by the story of this library, and the fact that we have people who are activists in Sweden who think about communities in Romania. This to us continues to be strange because we have authorities in Romania who don't think about communities in Romania. So sometimes this is quite shocking, and for people who are active in their communities and want to help, it's a breath of fresh air to connect this type of projects. So they are very grateful for that. And then together as the group, we went and participated in a professional conference, which was not about this kind of services, but just services and innovative services in libraries in general. And we stayed every day and discuss and help them think about, are there any ways in we can reach out to Roma community through public library services? Is there ways we can do this better in the future? So it was really diving in this new way of looking at inclusive library services for them. And then everyone went back home and started to do their activities. And this was happening in October. So now at the end of November, we already have some results. As Arina was saying about, you came with a lot of books in the first time. Now on the second reopening of the library, there's a collection of books that's seated at the National Library of Romania and will be used by anyone who wants to look at those books. But the National Library doesn't borrow books at home. So then bringing these books, this list of books who are recommended by your work and your expertise, and have the culture, the Roma culture at their center, at their core, it's quite valuable for these public libraries because it open up this culture in a different form to the community. So all these books were donated to the project, to the 5 partner libraries. And then
I just want to say that we have a bonus because when we made the list, I was not sure how it would be with the books from Fred. So we took with us with the donation for the National Library, we had the books in the series that Fred has been written, and we are going back to them and talk more about that. But yes, please continue.
I really want to hear more about the whole collection, because we usually the small libraries, the rural libraries, the communities who don't have resources have a hard time actually acquiring more diverse books. schools that are needed in books that are needed in school programs are one that take priority. So then all the books that are talk about diversity and inclusivity are not, unfortunately, a priority. So this is quite valuable. But I wanted to start the presentation of the activities that are taking place by showing you a picture from Concești with an activity that took place before we approach them. So that's why I mentioned that we looked at librarians who are already sensitive and involved in this type of activities. I'm sorry to say this is not the majority of librarians in Romania yet, as it's not the majority of teachers who are really inclusive in their classes. But the fact that this happened before we approached them, and it happened in a meaningful way. Anna is really passionate about what she discovers in her own community through providing this new type of services. Really gave us confidence to continue. And even though there might be some bureaucratic problems and things are always changing in Romania, the libraries are committed to continue the project and implement it. So then in Peștișani, the library also in Dâmbovița, discovering the books was the feedback that we received while organizing the events. Librarians read through the book but didn't think about the impact that the books would have on the children. And on our meetings, Ionela was saying about how impressed the children were to find Roma characters in the books, and how they stand taller because of that in that library. And in Shirna library in Prahova, the librarian was hesitant initially to join because the community was not quite open to talk about the Roma culture. But to her surprise and joy, the teachers from the daycare were very open, saying, yes, of course, we have these books, we can bring more books and let's do this together. And they've been doing activities there. The Machin, the library in Tulcea County, the Machin Library also organized events with children and are reaching out to bring more Roma children to the library. It's not a surprise. In Romania, libraries are not, it's around 15, less than 20% of the population using the libraries. Out of this percentage, the Roma community is not a leading community in using the libraries. So then for communities for libraries to really feel welcoming to children from Roma community, it's a process, but they are walking the walk, and I'm really happy with that. And then the launching of the project that was mentioned before in Bârlad Municipal Library. It's interesting because librarians there started to work with just announce a public announcement and didn't reach out to Roma community. And the leader of the community, who's also a local council member, said, ladies from the library, let's talk, because this type of project needs to also reach out to the Roma community. And you see him in the center there. The library stopped the initial planning, changed the plan, and opened up the whole project to be more inclusive, which I think it's a very good feedback and a very healthy process to go through to ensure sustainability of the project. And there are another number of lessons, another number of new approaches that I quickly want to mention. The fact that for as long as the weather permitted, the activities also took place outside. And from the feedback that we have, it's easier for people who are not used to going in the library to stop by the library and take a seat and maybe take a book. We have a very heartwarming story of a father coming into library in Concești and reading in Romani to his daughter. not wanting to, to be any picture being taken. It was just a private moment outside the library reading the book. I think it's quite powerful moment to have that. And then in the other picture, we have a librarian from our network talking about why libraries should provide this type of services to other librarians in her region. She didn't have to do that. It wasn't required in our project, but she decided this is valuable and she went on to do that. So this is very briefly what we did so far. We have more activities planned until December 15. That's when we put a deadline on the pilot phase. And yes, we have more libraries who would like to join the project. The librarians really talked about this. They are looking to get more books. This is what it's missing. We have some ideas, some plans, but the response for this fall was very fruitful. We feel like it was a good investment of our energy and time, and we are really excited to see, what more can we build through this.
Yeah, that's yes, please.
Yeah. Claude, I think we have much more together than you can think, because when I started my writing workshop with the Roma children 5 years ago or something, I was supported by Fred. It's called the Pen Club. There are many Roma children, but they never tell they are Roma children in our classes. And there I come and say, and I can speak a little Romanes, and said, and now we shall write together. First they were shy, then they came more and more and said, I also want to be part, I'm also a Roma. And then by writing with the children, we get the parents. Because I have, as I have been many years now, I got a new student this year. He had a sister that had stopped. Then I should introduce the books to this little boy. He said, I know it, my mother read it for me. Mm. And I was so happy. We have this book at home. My mother reads in it, I love it. And, yeah, and then, I feel like, I couldn't think that it would be so fine. So when through the children, as you told about this father, through the children, we reach the parents, and we also, reach the teachers, because the teachers, they are not all so interested either, because they have many other things. But when they see that the Roma children grow and feel proud, and also now they can tell, they come, I'm Rom, they say. And they didn't say that 5 years ago. So by doing this, we start something, really democratic.
Yeah, and it was actually that book, Daniel's Daniel's Day, that the father was reading. So I was so happy, and I saw people reading from your books and Lägga Pen Clubs, Gunilla, and from Fred's books. And now I actually wanted to ask you, Fred, how did you start it and why? And you have now already 5 titles. Yeah. You have with you 4, but yes. How did it started? And
the fifth is on the way.
Yeah.
But it takes a longer time now. I start to be a busy person, so...
A busy writer.
A busy writer. But I can show you, this is the very first issue book. And it started from the beginning that I was telling my daughters about how my life was, and I was used to write for adults people, because I was running the paper Româneglinda, the Roma newspaper Româneglinda. So I was used to write for adults, for older people, articles and so on. And then my daughters, when they saw the manuscript, they said, no, it has to be, you have to change your idea. You have to make children's books instead, and let's make a series of books. So it started with how it was from the beginning, and then we was making another story about how to make wooden cars, as you might see them. And then we made a book about the winter games, what kind of play we was doing on the winter time. And then this is the latest one with how it was when we was traveling around in Sweden, because all the Roma was traveling around in summertime to try to get some work, and this time was a kind of Tivoli. I don't know how to say, but Tivoli in Romania.
Goes round.
Yeah. So we was doing this. I don't know if you can see it so good, but also those book arena. It's not only the children who like the books, because people who lives in Stockholm, they like the books, because I have a motive from inside of Stockholm where I was living. So and also we have to say that the books are in 2 languages, in Swedish and in Romanes, and the dialect is Keldarage. So
and I think that the bilingual aspect of the books is also very good to have. And I'm managing myself a micro publishing house with bilingual books, and I was very happy to work with the Lägga pen club and collaborate with Romani Glinda for those books. But also I want to mention the books that are published in Romania. And it started actually with an association called or in other words, Cu alte cuvinte, and their main goal was to write stories with Roma heroes. And they are very consistent with this idea, and their first book was this one, E para misipa kendama, or Povestea kendamei pierdute in Romanian, Sagan om en kendama. And that was a little bit written by a Romanian author, Romanian illustrated non-Roma, a little bit like you are working with Lägga pen club. But then they continued, and now their latest titles, they have several young Roma writers choosing 3, I think, or 4 Roma heroes, very well-known Roma heroes in Romania, and they were interviewing them, so they wrote about them, and they also worked together with the professional illustrators. So those books are continuing on this path on showing Roma characters, showing from the life of Roma people. And there are other Romanian writers continuing with that. Victoria Pătrașcu, she's also has been working with the group. So I think that putting together people, both Roma and non-Roma, is a very important way to do in order to attract people to libraries and see that they meet each other.
Yes, and I think, I mean, this library that we have now it's not done only for Roma children, and what I do is also not done only for Roma children, because it's so important that other people also get to know and other children get to know. And I think often about that we heard a lot and know a lot about, you know, all the difficulties of the Roma people or the terrible things that happen. But we need also to tell about the good things. I mean, the rich culture, like you say, that they work with Roma heroes. And when I have my workshop, we have a very good time. And we talk about good things, because it's also needed to think about all the fine things. It also makes you to be more proud. And also people need to know that Roma, there are many intellectuals, there are many people, so professors, they don't know. They need to know this.
And also, can't you please tell how your meeting with the children are? Is it just to sit and speak, or do you have any cakes or something something nice?
We have a good time. We have the flag, and we have all the time. We have little presents, and we have this communication. You have. And we have it was very good when you had your magazine, because we could always have articles in that. But now we are writing a book together with Japanese children. So we are going far.
Yes.
And it would be wonderful to write a book together with your children.
Yeah.
That might be a project we could do.
That was one of my ideas when we went to this school near Brasov. I don't remember the name of the city where we was.
Yes.
But it was a school with lots of Roma children who was in the school. And when we show our books, they get nearly crazy, to see Roma books, and suggesting that it might be a possibility to make a pen club together with that school to start to write books together. So it's one of the ideas. We will see if it's possible to make it through. And also you were speaking about other libraries who don't have all the books and so on. Now I don't know how what they are going to do with the books at the National Library, but we were sending 60 kilo books to the library, which means that it was over 120 titles, 120 books with different titles. So what's happened with them?
Yeah, I can tell you about that, because
The rest of it.
the actually is so the library started in Giulesti, and we were active until 2019, and then we have the pandemics for 2 years, so the place needed to close. So we lost actually all the books that we donated initially. I heard that many schools and nurseries were taking care of those books. But then we needed to have something at a Romanian National Library. And the idea with having the books there is that they are now, I received a mail saying that they are now into the being inscribed in the online. And there is this kind of interlibrary loan. So the libraries, as I understood in Romania, can ask for an interlibrary loan and loaning some books from there as soon as they are going to access a list online. But then, of course, we have more books from the Tanto children, and those books can go to maybe a new way. Yeah, other libraries that are interested in being involved in the network. And I need to say that this pilot project with the 5 Romanian libraries that has been financed by Book Aid, a Swedish organization selling old books, and 1 crown is possible to be donated in order to support projects for literacy and reading. So now it's a very good way to move on to the next question about the future. How do you see the future? You have this idea about starting a Leglatenge pen club in Romania as well. We can actually start with if children from the libraries from our small network are interested to write, we can give the address to Rinkeby library, and they can write to that library, and they can receive letters from Rinkeby library. I think that might be appreciated. But what are your thoughts and ideas and dreams about that, about the Children's Roma Library?
Okay. I hope it will continue, all the work will continue. And I can promise that if there is any Romanian library who wants to have those books, as I done, can give them for free. The only thing that they have to pay for the trip, for the transport. Otherwise, they get books from me for free.
Oh, that's very generous. Thank you, Fred. And what about you, Gunilla?
Yeah, I think that we have a lot that we cooperate and just meet and talk, because when you spoke, it was like when I speak, it is things that we have very much in common, so we can help each other. It sounds maybe like it's like a paradise here in Sweden, but we have the same things as you. As you know, we come to schools and they say, no, we don't have any Roma children, or they say we don't have any Gypsy children, so we don't need these books. So we have the same way to walk, and that's fine to know. So, and I think it would be wonderful if you come to Sweden. So also,
well, the project with the library the next year, it's quite an interesting project. I've been to Sweden to IFLA conferences before, so to library conferences. So, and I know very great librarians from there. One thought that I would like to share to you, and I mentioned that the libraries don't have the books, and that's kind of an impediment to start thinking more about being more inclusive. But there's another layer, which is up until now, I could not really figure out an effective way of doing this, of doing advocacy for inclusion. And not put this on the shoulder of librarians, because I feel like, in the community, if a librarian is opening up the services, it's opening the library to be more inclusive, there's already a lot of work to be done. Our rural libraries are very small. It's usually one librarian, and they are really, really, really packed in terms of time. But it's also the idea that libraries in Romania are not seen as an education tool, unlike Sweden or Nordic countries. And we are really, really working on this. The embassy, the Swedish embassy in Romania, it's a great advocate of this in Romania. But it's a really long process. Just like activists for inclusion, it's a process. You have to educate people, and this is why we didn't jump to do this in like half of the country, even though we have very good librarians in all the regions of the country, because we don't have the other part of really advocating and having a strong voice and having people who have a position and really fight for the Roma rights in Romania, really understanding that also libraries can be supportive of this. Or even the children's book, really. In Romania, children's book, illustrated children's book are just now getting some energy, and they're considered possible good gifts for Christmas, for example. It's a process. It's going in the right direction. And everywhere around the country, there are people who are fighting this good fight. Just the energy of bringing them together, it's a process. And that's why I told Arina when she was in Bukarest that I really value that I was there when the first library was open, and even though the library closed, we keep going, we're trying new things, because this is the only way we could do this. But not to kid ourselves, this is a long process, and the hope is actually that the generation that are reading those books, Fred's books and your books, will be better at being inclusive in their own communities.
But may I ask?
Yeah.
Of course, Romania have a book fair.
Yeah.
But when? What time of the year?
Yeah, Romania has actually two book fairs. One in the spring and summer when we went. I went with the Roma children group at the year after opening. We went to the book fair, and it was a great experience. So that's one in the summer. And then in the autumn term, there is another one.
But they are in Bukarest.
They are in Bukarest. Oh, yeah. But I think that the book fest...
I can add that there's also a group of very passionate young at heart and also young with energy writers who are putting together a children's book fair. Bucherini, it's happening now and then, and also the BAS Association is providing activities, which is Children Book Festival. So this is recent for us, and as needed that this type of projects are, even themselves are really fighting with underfunding. So it's just a big process of getting people together and providing the basic support so they can do the work that's needed.
Yeah, and I think that this is the best way of doing that. I mean, the reopening of the Children's Roma Library was great to have it at the National Library because we know that we have a list, we have a book fund there, but the work, the grassroots work is done in the country by many NGOs and fiery spirits fighting for this. And of course it takes time because it's not the authorities and the politics are not really into that as much as it started to be in Sweden. I mean, Sweden has this law about minorities, and it's more than 20 years ago, and first now you have a Roma library being putting up. So I think there is a lot of things. There are a lot of things to do, but I'm very confident, as you are saying, Claudia, and I'm really very happy working with you to put together the network and small steps, but kind of getting back and coming back all the time, and getting people involved and doing things.
And I also want to add information about Sweden, because Sweden has a special library laws. So they have to follow special rules, you know, and that means that you have bigger and larger possibility to be more visible with your books and so on. So and they have a special library law for national minorities. And they are supporting the national minorities in another way as they did before, you know. I mean, it's 12 years now since the start to make these library laws. It's in 2010.
Right.
So I would say that now we have a quite good position to make books. We will see now the new government are reacting, because we have just changed a new government, and we will see how it will be. Yeah. But I think it will be not so easy as it was before.
Yeah. And so the fight is needed everywhere and on every level. And but I also quite confident, because I think that now we have a base, we have a network, we have a close collaborating partner in Sweden, in Romani Glinda, in Gunilla Lundgren, and now also the Roma Library in Malmö. So I think that, and the Children's Roma Library I think that it was actually the first one, at least in Europe. I haven't heard that. we continue to extend the network. That would be brilliant, and I'm also open for invitations to Bukerini or to Bookfest. I think that it's a good space and a good context to talk more about the Children's Roma Library, and especially with all the experiences that the librarians were communicating to us.
I can say that when we met Moses Heinschink last time from Austria, he said that we are the first Roma children library. There is a good library in Austria, but it is not for children especially. So they are small, but he said, no, he never heard about it. And also Thomas Ekton said also, yeah. So I think we are the first. We can say that until someone claims
the opposite, right.
Then they have to show that they had it.
Yeah.
But you have also a lot of contacts. You have not heard about another children's Roma library?
No.
There are libraries, but not especially for children, just our.
Yeah. And it's great that we invest in the children, because in my opinion, if you want to change a society, go to the children, and then you probably eventually will get the adults with them as well. And I also need to say that this is the Children's Roma Library is also a part from a bigger project called Harapalb, which is also inspired by Sweden and Unibacken, and the idea of bringing stories, illustrated children books to all the children, and having everyone being involved. So this is why I have Harapalb here with me all the time as a silent assistant. He was at the opening in Bukarest as well. Yeah,
it's in the bookshelf.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also I would like to say it's very good to have bilingual books, because the Roma children are not used to read Romanes. That means that it's also one kind of education, and make them to encourage them to write in Romanes, in Romaniship. So also they have to have or not have, but they should learn the Roma alphabet, because they are special characters, as we are using. And when they are using those characters, they can use it for all the dialects. It's not a special dialect. They can use it for all the dialects. And you might know there are about 60 dialects. But it's possible to use the same character.
Yeah, and I must tell you, in my little reading club, then we have in Kaldrash are our books. And then we have children who speak Arli and Lovara, and then they get but it's not correct. And then we have, a wonderful discussion. These children are just from 7 to 12 years old, and we sit and speak like professors. Like, how do you say Lacho in your dialect? And how do you say they? How do you say this? So we have really a language discussion, and I think that's also it's brilliant. I mean, because children also grow by these discussions that even adults can't have.
But I can also say that in all our books, I don't know if you can see it, there is a kind of
word
list. Because sometimes you have to use words that you don't use every day, And then there are there is an explanation in Swedish, for example, this now, what it means. So that is also good, and I think you also did one.
Yeah, in this one, 100 words and phrases in three
dialects.
Yeah. In two dialects, yes, it was Kalderash and Arli.
Yeah, because there was students spoke these two.
Exactly. So I think that there are. We need to close this discussion, but we can conclude that more books, more networking, and communicating, and this making that from with the platform of Children's Roma Library, and. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you, Claudia. Please send my regards to the entire network as well. We are going to meet each other later on. Thank you very much, Fred, for your generosity and for your beautiful books. And thank you, Gunilla, for being such a enthusiastic, fiery spirit as always. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.